And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Payload down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange!
R45! Oh my god!
Decollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the countdown of a Falcon 9 launching 2 payloads at the same time going to the moon. My name is Adrian Bile. I'm here with you all to kick off this wild 24 hours of spaceflight that is ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to talk through everything moon in the next 55 minutes, because that certainly is the focus here for this first launch. But I'm not alone with this. I'm joined by a person that you always wish to have when you talk about Falcon 9. Alex, how is it going?
It's going fantastic, but as you mentioned, it's probably going to be quite a wild 24-hour, 25, depending on some windows out there, right? Some of those launch windows. Yeah, it's going to be wild.
Absolutely. It's a very special day in spaceflight with Blue Ghost, with HAKUTO-R, then with Starship, and with New Glenn, all in a matter of 25 or so hours. So you will get plenty of NSF coverage if you like our voices. Speaking of voices, I think in the field we have Sawyer making a comeback to the Cape here. Sawyer, how is it going?
It is going great. Yes, this is my Cape comeback finally after 2 months of being knocked out with surgery. We are here. There is a Falcon 9 on the pad, and it's a little chilly, but it's a great day to go to space.
Let me also directly come to you, Sawyer. Do you want to give us a quick overview of what are these moon payloads that we are talking about here?
Sure. Yeah, we have 2 very cool payloads that are on their way. Of course, we have the Firefly Blue Ghost lander. This is the first Blue Ghost lander. There are 10 different scientific payloads on board. This is part of the NASA commercial lunar program that they have going. Their commercial partners called CLPS. So there'll be 10 different instruments on board to measure all kinds of different things, from X-rays to a reflector to help measure the distance more accurately to the moon, as well as a way to try and ionize all of the lunar regolith, the dust, out of the way of the vehicle. So there's a lot of cool stuff on this particular one. Going along with it is the ispace HAKUTO-R mission as well. That is the second one for HAKUTO-R here. So Japan will also have a lander on its way down to the surface of the moon. They are both hitching a ride together. The plan is for them to get into orbit. They'll take some time before heading out on their way to the lunar surface, with landings in the next month or so.
Absolutely. And this is, seeing 2 moonlanders at the same time is a wonderful and special occasion that we are getting to witness here. D, in the field, are you still blessed with cold in Florida, or is it a bit nicer than the days before?
You know, actually, yesterday was a bit nicer than the days before. So while we were getting ready for a potential New Glenn launch, it was really nice out. I was in just one sweatshirt. But since that weather is cleared, it has cooled back off. So it is a chilly evening here in Florida as we get ready for the launch.
Absolutely, and you will, of course, deliver tracking to us along the line here, so thank you for that. Also, behind the scenes, we have both Kevin Michael Reed and Jake Keegan standing by and bringing also all of the production magic. You can see all kinds of feats there today being displayed. We also have Julia Bergeron in the field, and we have Max Evans in the field today. So really, we are, as Jack always says, there are no stops for this. There are no stops. They are all removed. And with that, Alex, do you mind giving us an overview of Falcon 9's payload? Not payload. Falcon 9's job today. What kind of landing do we have? What booster is this? Give us the rundown.
I'll go from the start, right? So in about 50 minutes and 48 seconds, we're going to have that liftoff. And so the rocket will head a bit southeast. So it's not the southeast that we see, for example, for Starlink missions, but it's not going to be entirely east. It's sort of like, an in-between kind of thing. It's going to head out southeast. The booster is going to fly for about 2.5 minutes. Stage separation will happen. This booster is Beaton 85, and it is flying for a 5th time, having supported 4 missions prior to this. 2 Starlink missions, Starlink Group 10-5 and Starlink Group 677, but also Crew 9 and GPS-3 SVO7, also known as RRT-1. And so those 4 missions, hopefully this booster has read the instructions, because it's going to be landing on Just Read the Instructions out there in the Atlantic Ocean. That's going to be probably, if I'm not mistaken, the longest distance that any booster for Falcon 9 has flown to a landing spot on a drone ship. It's going to be 700 kilometers downrange, which I think it's a new record, because up until now, if I'm not mistaken, the record was about 690 kilometers. So this is about 10 kilometers further downrange. So that's going to be quite an interesting landing for the booster. Now, meanwhile, the second stage will ignite, right? And then it's going to enter a sort of like a parking orbit in low Earth orbit. And then it'll relight its engine again. That one should be a little bit later, essentially about 58 minutes into flight, or sort of like even close to 1 hour, right? After launch, that second stage relight will put both landers, the Firefly lander and the HAKUTO-R lander, in a high Earth orbit. So the payload stack for today, we have the Firefly lander on top, and that's going to be released right after that burn at about 1 hour and 5 minutes. And, that payload adapter that they have to be able to fit both landers together, they have the Firefly lander on top, and then they have this sort of capsule canister kind of thing that covers the bottom lander, which is the HAKUTO-R lander. So that canister will separate about 1 hour and 11 minutes into flight, and then we'll see another relight of the second stage, a very short burn, about 1 second long, about 1 hour and 26 minutes, to push the HAKUTO-R a little bit further beyond that high Earth orbit, to sort of go all the way to the Lagrange point 1 between the Earth and the Sun. We'll talk about that probably along the course of today's live stream. And then, hopefully, we're going to see that HAKUTO-R lander being separated 1 hour and 32 minutes after launch. As for the fate of the second stage, as you can imagine, it's going to stay out there in that, sort of like heliocentric orbit out in space. So it's not going to come back. There's not going to be sort of a deorbit burn or anything, because it's going to go all the way out there. So none of that happening. Forgot, the fairing halves are also being recovered. On that first burn of the second stage, the fairings will separate, and they're going to be coming back, and they're going to be recovered. And by the way, they are also reused, and one of them we think might actually be a record turnaround. We'll see if we actually can confirm that. And they're going to be recovered by the ferry recovery vessel Bob. So that's sort of the rundown of today's mission, sort of the timeline, what is being launched, and at what time they separate. But I don't know if we have any questions. As usual, tag in NASA Spaceflight in chat, and we can go over that.
Absolutely. Before we move to that, I want to quickly go to Sawyer here. Sawyer,
Hello.
Of course, these are two moon missions at the same time. So just to differentiate here, or just to point this out to the audience, these are not part of the same mission, right? These are like they're kind of on the same bus here.
Exactly, yeah. At a briefing earlier today, they basically said that, hey, we had 2 missions that are going to the moon, and SpaceX said we could stick them both on the same rocket, and both parties agreed. So that is why we have the blue Ghost one, which again, that is Firefly. So Firefly Aerospace has that one called Ghost Riders in the Sky. And then the other one is the Japanese company ispace. That is the one that is HAKUTO-R Mission 2 Resilience.
There you go. And of course, Blue Ghost is part of the NASA Commercial Lunar Payload Services, CLPS, which is a name that we have heard in the past 1 or 2 years a bit when the moon came up. So once again, we are being blessed here by one of these CLPS landers, which already had such a rich journey in the past few launches. We had quite some adventures to the moon in the CLPS program so far. Let's see here. Alex, there's also wondering here, since you talked about performance, how light are those landers? Because it can't be easy for Falcon 9 to launch those both at the same time.
Well, ironically, we've already seen Falcon 9 launching a HAKUTO-R lander. The first one was launched on Falcon 9, and it's lightweight enough that it was able to do a return to launch site landing, right? But of course, now it has also the Blue Ghost lander from Firefly as well, so it adds a bit more mass, and of course, that means it is landing the booster on a drone ship instead, just to, get a bit more oomph and more performance out of that first stage, so they need to land on a drone ship for tonight's mission. The combined mass, we think it's about, we don't know the exact mass of both landers, unfortunately, but we think it's sort of a bit under 3 metric tons, more or less, because the Firefly Blue Ghost, they claim it's about 450 kilograms of dry mass, and about 1,000 kilograms of propellant on board for propulsion and everything. So that would mean it's about 1,400 kilograms, more or less. And the HAKUTO-R is also between 1,100, 1,200 kilograms or so when fully fueled. So we think probably the combined mass of both landers, it's close to 3 metric tons.
There we go.
And one other thing that I should mention, though, because you may see out there maybe advertised things like, oh, they're carrying 155 kilograms. That's the payload mass on the lander. For example, Firefly is carrying a bunch of payloads. We may talk about those here in the broadcast later, right? And one of the things that happens is that advertised mass is the mass that is going to be landed as payload on the moon, right? Like it's sort of like the difference when we talk about when Falcon 9 launches Dragon, right? And we say Dragon is about 13 tons in mass, but it carries 3 tons of payload. And it's like, yeah, because that's part of that total mass of those 13 tons. It is carrying on board 3 tons of payload. So same deal here. We think that, both landers are about 3 tons in mass, but then each one of them has their own payloads. In the case of Blue Ghost, again, I think it's like 150 kilograms that it's carrying to the lunar surface. Bunch of the mass, of course, it's on propellant because it needs to land on the moon. But that's another quick explanation there, I guess.
There's a very neat demonstration here from, like a picture from ispace that shows their lander's path to the moon. Both companies have these kind of graphs that help to understand how they get there. With the, of course, actually, Alex, they have different paths to go to the moon, right? And different timelines, even though they're launching on the same rocket.
That's true. So this, for example, now that we're showing the ispace lander, the HAKUTO-R lander, so that one in particular will actually take about 4 to 5 months to get to the moon. And the whole reason for that is because they're using what it's called a low energy trajectory. So what the low energy trajectory, it's a bit of a misnomer because you actually need a bit more energy, but out of the rocket. The lander actually uses less fuel to get to the moon in this kind of trajectory. By using a little bit more of the rocket performance, pushing it, this lander will go out to 1.5 million kilometers up beyond the Earth, essentially. So it's going to go to the Lagrange point 1 between the Earth and the Sun. These things where you take the gravity of the Sun, you take the gravity of the Earth, and then you combine those, and then you have these spots around the solar system where you have sort of like neutral gravity, so to speak. It's a very absurd and very simplistic explanation, but you sort of get the idea, right? Where you combine all of those gravities, you get these points in space where the gravity sort of counteracts. What they're using is they're going out all the way to that point because as they swing back down to the Earth, they use the Earth's gravity again to swing to the moon and be able to use a lot less fuel to be able to get into into orbit around the moon. It's a very efficient way to get to the moon, but it also takes a while to get there. So it's going to take 4 to 5 months. In the case of the Blue Ghost lander from Firefly, what they're doing is they're going into a high Earth orbit, which I'm not mistaken, it's supposed to be about 300,000 kilometers of an apogee. It's sort of this egg-shaped orbit, right, with the perigee very close to the Earth, but the highest point, the apogee, is way farther out, very close to the orbit of the moon, but not entirely there. What they're going to do is they're going to use that orbit to do a lot of checkouts of their lander, because it's also the first time that they're launching this lander, right? For Hakuto, it's their second time, but for Blue Ghost, it's their first time. So they want to be able to test that, be able to check out the systems, and also it allows them to be able to launch pretty much on different timelines that you will need to get to the moon, because it allows them to be able to phase, to be able to time their orbit correctly. They're going to be doing a few burns to be able to get out to the moon, and the landing is supposed to be about 45 days after the launch. So we're looking, perhaps, I think they were saying today, March 2nd for the landing of the Blue Ghost. So this is going to be a lot earlier than the HAKUTO-R lander, because again, that's going to take 4 to 5 months to land on the moon. So Blue Ghost will be a bit earlier than that. Funny enough, there's also going to be another lander on the way to the moon while Blue Ghost attempts its landing on the moon, because for the case of, there's multiple landers in development, right? There's another lander that's going to launch next month, the Intuitive Machines 2 lander, the IM2 lander, which is going to be trying, remember last year when there was this lander that, tumbled when it landed on the moon? That's going to try another one of those in late February. And so when it arrives to the moon, it's also going to be about around the same week that the Blue Ghost lander is going to land on the moon. So it's going to be an exciting week that week. I'm sure that we're probably going to cover that live on our own as well.
I think there's a very good chance that will be the Moon Week here at NSF. So that's going to be an interesting one. And also it answered a lot of questions here ahead. Thanks for that comprehensive answer there, Alex. That already checked off a lot of boxes here. We have less than 40 minutes away here. Let's check in with the field here and what we can see them having deployed. I think this is the setup that D has in the field, with several cams deployed and all kinds of gear being readied to cover this launch. I mean, look at that. That's quite a lot of cameras. I'm not sure if these available for comms right now, but
and launch is complete. We are go.
Yeah, it is. Every Z-Cam cinema camera that I have is currently active for this. We've been talking and teasing on some Starlink streams about continuing to improve our ability to capture and share these launches. So this is one more step in that.
It looks like
at T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off, relying on automated port criteria for the remainder of the count.
Yeah, so it appears that SpaceX has just given the go for propellant load, and then the director has given the abort instructions. So that's not that they are boarding, but like what to do if they were to abort, and that's when they have to do the whole hold thing, right? And so that's what they were saying. So that's good news, because it means in 2 minutes we're going to see fueling on Falcon 9.
For the starter propellant load.
There it is.
See?
Sorry, D. We just got that there. Absolute impressive that you operated all of that at the same time, because that's all of you. You're operating all of this, right?
Yes, that is correct. I'm doing all of those at once.
Good luck with that. That's all I'm gonna say here. Always cool to hear this pre-briefing that we get before the auto sequence of the Falcon 9, because these days you don't get that many launches where we hear that, Alex, right? But if my memory is correct, the next thing would be at around 35 minutes. The call-out auto sequence has started, right?
That is correct. So at T-minus 35 minutes, the auto sequence starts, and that is an automated sequence, as the name implies, right? That begins all of the propellant load sequences and all of the preparations for launch, to fuel the rocket, align the computers, all of the stuff that you think can go between T-minus 35 minutes all the way to T0. That is automated through that countdown sequence. We'll start at T-minus 35 minutes with the propellant load on the first stage. So both RP1 kerosene and liquid oxygen will be loaded onto the first stage. And then on the second stage at the same time, they'll be loading RP1 kerosene. As for the liquid oxygen, that'll begin a bit later in the countdown at T-minus 16 minutes. But first, that RP1 load should start in about 25 seconds on that second stage as well.
I'm gonna come back on window today and window specifics, but let's wait here a moment before that call comes of launch auto. Should be any second now. Usually.
The launch auto sequence has started.
There it is. This is really like an auto sequence. Like, this is very, at this point, pre-planned and orchestrated steps that Falcon 9 will now go through. And it is now going through that process in preparation for liftoff in 35 minutes. Alex, let's talk about window here, because moon specifics, it's not that long of a window, right?
As far as we know, it seems like this is an instantaneous window. At least I have not seen yet that there's a proper window. In the case of what SpaceX is saying, they just say liftoff is targeted for 1:11 a.m. Eastern, right? So usually when it's a window, they say the X amount of time a window will begin at whatever time, right? So they usually use those words when it's a proper window. When it's an instantaneous window, oftentimes they just say liftoff is targeted for blah, and they put the time there. So we think so far that this is probably going to be an instantaneous launch window, which means now that we are, regardless, right? We're now already on propellant load, so they have to go to this T0 that they're targeting. But before that, if they had a window, they could have moved a bit into the window, but it seems like that's not the case, and they are targeting that to the second. It should be 1:11:39 a.m. Eastern launch, which will be 6:11:39 UTC.
There you can see the timeline, of course, with the necessary steps. One of the first things we will see now is venting, which will appear on the tanks here very, very soon. We will see some frost. Alex, people are also wondering about that one single rainbird there that is constantly going. Is that normal?
Yeah, we see that often. I'm mostly sure that that's just part of that's a feature, not a bug, right? That's part of the system. It's just a trickle compared to the amount of water that they can hold, right? And that they are holding on their ground tanks and the water tower and everything. There's plenty there. And yeah. And another thing that I also see a few times here and there is that those rainbirds don't come up until after the liftoff or very shortly after liftoff, right? And a lot of people like, wow, is that delayed? Is that normal? It's completely normal, because those are for protecting the top deck, right, of the launch mount. There are another set of deluge sprays, so to speak, under the engines, and those do activate prior to the engine ignition. I think it's about T-minus 10 seconds or so. And so those do activate before liftoff, but the rainbirds, those activate afterwards, because it's to protect the top. And so it doesn't make sense to really activate those before the rocket is already hitting the launch mount, right? It's kind of how it works, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I saw it, I think, on the transporter mission that I watched earlier. Like it's mad how late they activate that deluge on these pads. Like on Vandenberg also, it came up at like 2 seconds where they really kicked into gear.
Yeah, and it also depends on the different pads. I think for Slick 40 they do activate before liftoff, but in the case of 39A they at 40, excuse me, the other way around. On 40 they activate before liftoff, and at 39A it seems like it is after liftoff. So it kind of depends as well on the launch pad and everything. You know, each one is built differently, so that's why things occur differently. Makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. Let me thank some people here, because we are getting some very generous support here in the early hours of this interesting 24 hours, starting with Ironclad gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you so much. Michelle Delay becoming a Pad Red member. Welcome. And Tommy Ritter also becoming a Pad Red member. Welcome to you as well. And also upgrading to Capcom right after that. So Capcom, as always, gives you access to our membership Discord. So if you want to hang out there, make sure to do that. Taco King becoming a Patrat member. Thank you for that. And then we have Westwell Super Chat saying, for the Chips and Soda Fund, would a triple booster Falcon 9 be powerful enough to send a crew mission to the moon, or will that task be covered by Starship? So basically, can a Falcon Heavy send crew to the moon? In some configuration, with some very major changes to any currently planned crew program, Falcon Heavy could send some sort of crew to the moon. However, not in the capacity that is right now planned. Alex, would you agree with that?
I mean, if you don't care about them surviving the trip to the moon, you can just launch them on these landers, right? Just strap them on a launch chair or something like that. I joke, but it's true, right? Like, of course, if you want a sophisticated spacecraft, you know, like a capsule or something like that, and a proper lander and things like that, that takes a lot of mass when you're talking about crew on board, right? Even for one person, it will take a very big rocket, even more than Falcon Heavy. Now, you could probably do that maybe with 2 Falcon Heavy launches. I haven't really run the numbers, right? But kind of sounds doable there. In fact, the Chinese are trying to do something like that with their own lunar program, with, you know, this sort of Falcon Heavy size kind of rocket. They're going to be launching 2 of them to be able to do that campaign at first. But it is true that you need kind of a big rocket to be able to do this. And Saturn V, you know, it was a huge amount of mass that it could put into orbit, so the moon. And that's how it was able to do that. It was still a very small lander. It was a tin can, essentially. But
yep, yeah. Absolutely.
Starship is going to be a mansion on the moon in comparison.
Yeah, it always depends on how much stuff do you want to bring with you to the moon, which restricted. Also, just to clarification for people that are maybe confused about the name ispace here, there's confusingly 2 companies in space that are called ispace. There's ispace, the Japanese company, which are, for example, building the HAKUTO-R lander, and then there's ispace, the Chinese company, which are building the Hyperbola vehicles. So they're different companies. Don't get confused by that. Just pointing that out because maybe people have heard the name ispace in the past in different context.
It's also not an Apple product, by the way.
Yeah, it's also not an Apple product. That's true. 29 and Booster 11 is wondering, I heard that both of these landers are landing at same spot just 9 kilometers away. Is that true?
Oh, you know what? I have not actually heard about that.
I
know the general region, right?
Yeah.
But not the exact landing location for both.
I wonder if that exact landing location is even fully assigned yet to where you can say they land 9 kilometers next to each other. That would surprise me.
Exactly, because usually these landers have like a very big landing area, right? Especially when it's their first time, like the Blue Ghost lander. Usually you have multiple kilometers of like an ellipse, they call it, for landing. Um, I mean, nine kilometers will be quite a short distance. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
I've
about
read
that,
up about this mission before, and I do not recall seeing that stat, but it could
Yeah.
be. Like, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I have not particularly tumbled over that statistic right now.
Yeah, I mean, one is landing on the Mare Crisium, that's the Blue Ghost lander, and the other one is landing on the Mare Frigoris. I really haven't looked up like a map of the moon and how close those two landing sites are, but like the Mares on the moon are quite huge, right? So when they say, "Oh, it's landing on the Mare Crisium," and it's like, okay, but that's quite a huge area, right? So it's probably like a small European country kind of area.
Yep, absolutely. It's and again they do sometimes last minute and also like use several flybys to do some analysis of their ground area and then really pick a final spot, because that tends to be just the easiest way. We're getting some questions about a shot we have in place here right now, because on the lower left of the fairing there are things moving there. Alex, what are these?
Yeah, those are the covers on the vents of the fairing. So as the fairing goes up, right now it's full of air conditioned air, right? And as it goes up, the pressure goes down and down and down because it's getting into that vacuum. So the fairings need like little holes, little vents to be able to keep that pressure going down and have be able to eliminate all of that air as you go up in the atmosphere. So that's what those things are doing, is they are covering the vents that help do that. So that's one of what you see flapping is essentially just like a kind of protective cover that is there. That'll fly off once the rocket starts moving, usually very quickly after liftoff, because it gets going very, very quickly. But yeah, that'll eventually fly off and just fall off.
There we go, and there we see some animation here of the approach to the moon.
Someone saying in chat, Mare Crisium is basically England size, so there you go. That's how big it is.
That's the maneuver that's being conducted. Of course, we know landing on the moon, as we have seen in the other CLPS landers, can be quite hard, because the lander kind of needs to do it themselves. Like, they cannot be steered anymore. It's more a software execution, thanks to the lay of the moon.
And in fact, the other lander, HAKUTO-R, it already went, like there was a first one, right? And it already went to the moon, and it was not successful on doing so because the software got confused. It thought that it was actually it was like close to the ground. It was actually 5 kilometers above the ground. And it sort of, it kept hovering at 5 kilometers, thinking that it was close to the ground, right? Because it was thinking that it was very close to the ground, and so of course you kind of hover, try to find a good position, and then finally soft touchdown. It just kept hovering, and it was actually 5 kilometers up above the surface. And so when the lander just ran out of propellant, the engine shut down, and it just crashed, from 5 kilometers up. To the surface. So this is one of the key things that these companies are trying to get right. These first missions are test flights. So, in 45 days, if Blue Ghost gets to the moon and for whatever reason something happens to it, don't be shocked, because this is like, unknown territory for these companies, right? There are other landers that have been successful, though. For example, the Chinese have been able to land their Chang'e missions to the moon, right? The 4, 3, 5, and 6. Were able to land there, but other companies have not been able to, and so it depends a bit in the events that happen. Unfortunately, as they say, space is hard. The moon is harder, I guess, because it's actually a surface.
I mean, it's a problem, and I'm not sure, Sawyer, I think we have your back here. It's a problem that these companies run into more and more, especially now that Moon and Mars come into, because again, steering is not that much possible. It's more like programming and hoping for the best, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's no as much of a delay as, say, if you're going from, for a Mars landing. But I mean, for the case of a lunar lander like this, a lot of it is autonomous. And I mean, part of what Firefly is doing with theirs is they have special cameras that they're using to assist with guiding it down to a proper landing site, somewhere that is soft, that is flat. It's really cool. And again, a lot of this is just using those onboard thrusters that they have. They've got some cold gas jet ones that use different kinds of propellants to just try and go for that soft touchdown. And that seems to be the elusive part of these lunar landers.
And there's even there's even a probe collection that we have seen before here on the HAKUTO-R lander. Do we know what that probe collection, that regolith collection, will be used for?
The plan is that they're contracted to grab it and then drop it. The plan is either that they can then use that sample in the future, a robotic mission can come pick it up, or if it came down to it, some people could go pick it up. But it seems like the goal is to leave the option of, hey, if someone wants to try come pick it up, finders keepers.
That's cool. It's kind of like a already prepared, perfectly packed probe of lunar regolith. Perfect.
Stage 2,
Alex.
RP1 load complete.
There you go.
Now, SpaceX is kind of spoiling what I'm about to ask you here, but what is that giant vent there that we see?
Yeah, that's part of the logs chill down that we're mentioning there on the countdown timeline on the left. That is essentially, they have just finished the stage 2 RP1 load, and so what they're doing is now they're transitioning the Stromback to going into liquid oxygen load on the second stage. And so they need to chill down that line that goes to the second stage, because liquid oxygen is very, very cold on Falcon 9. And so they need to get, well, Falcon 9 or really getting the other rocket, right? It's very cold. It's a cryogenic fluid, and you need to condition those fluids, those lines, to get to the second stage.
Absolutely. Let me quickly thank some more people here, starting with Barbara Wells with a super chat saying, "You're all rocket. Thanks, comms." Thank you for that support. Johan becoming a Pad Red member. Thank you so much for that. And then we have Train Rides and Fun saying, "Can the NSF team say hi to the Blue Ghost team and Chris R and explain the function of the transporter erector?" First off, hello Blue Ghost team and Chris R. Alex, what is the function of this massive structure, the transporter erector that is right next to the rocket?
It has uses, but as the name implies, it aids on the transporting and the erection of the rocket. So the rocket is integrated horizontal on a hangar a few hundred meters down the ramp at 39A, and then it needs to be transported horizontally to the pad. Once it reaches the top of the ramp, it goes vertical, and that's held by a lot of hydraulic pistons at the bottom of the transporter erector out there on the pad. Now, the Stromback, though, so both the transporter erector and the Stromback, they carry fluids to the rocket. The base of the transporter erector, that's the reaction fixture, that is anchored to the ground, and it provides all of the propellant, all of the power and everything to the first stage. The Stromback, the white structure there that is venting right now next to the rocket, that is fueling. It provides propellant to the second stage. It provides power as well. It provides air conditioning to both the intrastage and raceways, and also to the fairing as well. So there's a lot of things that this structure does for the rocket, essentially, providing all of the things that it needs to be able to work, including as well even the fluids for starting the engines on the ground, hopefully in about 17 minutes and 20 seconds from now.
Absolutely. Then we have Eternal Swordsman here with Super Chat saying, if you keep the fairing sealed instead of vented, you could probably use that to propel the fairing pieces apart without any active parts. Sound like a way to make the fairing cheaper to me. That's true. But usually you kind of don't want to have rapid pressure changes to your satellite.
Yeah, I will not like that on these things. They're not
then we have
to go through that.
Mark here with Super saying, thank you for continuing the great coverage. What is the latest on turnaround times for Falcon 9 boosters? With 2025 promising more launches, will SpaceX rely on new boosters or faster turnaround? To the last one, the answer is both. They will probably both want to decrease turnaround times and have more boosters. This booster is flying after...
There you
go. After a 29-day turnaround. And then we have RC Horseman, a very, very regular here, gifting 20 Red Team memberships. Thank you so much. This is very, very generous. And I hope everybody that just received one of these enjoys these. So coming to you with a cape and range question. Do Falcon 9 launches affect Blue Origin's operation? Or are they far enough away? Does this have any influence on how New Glenn is preparing to launch right now?
I mean, yes and no. They're still obviously doing their preparations and keeping their rocket out at the pad, which is totally fine. The problem becomes when you get to during the launch itself. Once you enter launch operations, there are certain keep out areas that are closed off. So within that point, let's say, if you're trying to go towards Launch Complex 39A, there's a cutoff for that. If the work they're doing is still outside of that safe zone, then they're totally fine. If it's anywhere inside of that, risk area, then they won't. But based off of where Blue's pad is, they should probably be just fine.
And
We should probably mention that this is very close to Blue's window, but 24 hours away right now. Our understanding is that if it came to be that New Glenn and HAKUTO-R/Blue Ghost were scheduled on the same day, this mission would probably take priority.
Both spacecraft are on internal power.
Nice.
Because
it's
a bit more critical.
And even without the properly, you can see that right now. So the whole reason why Blue Origin did not target today was precisely because today it was this launch on the range at this time, which is the same sort of time frame than their launch from Launch Complex 36. So the whole reason why they went from Tuesday, targeting Tuesday, as they tried to, but obviously the weather was not really that good, they said, we're going to target now Thursday, the 16th. That is precisely because of that, because today there's the Blue Ghost and HAKUTO-R landers going on Falcon 9 around the same time. But fun enough, on the flip side, this mission is not doing RTLS, so that means it's probably not going to close a lot of the zones close to Blue's launch pad, so good for them.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's if you go to the moon and have multiple payloads that are part of governmental projects, you take range priority usually.
Especially with this one, because they also have a window. Because to go to the moon, you have a few days in the month that is the most optimal, so to speak, right? So this window runs out on January 20th, so they have basically less than a week to be able to get there. So yeah,
let's go down that rabbit hole, because that's an interesting one. Because people would just assume, well, the moon's always around the Earth, right? So you can always launch to the moon. There's no restrictions, but there are quite more restrictions than people think, right, Alex?
Yeah, because especially, for example, for the HAKUTO-R, it's going to that Lagrange point 1 between the Earth and the Sun, the one that I talked about, the gravities cancel out kind of thing. There are 5 points like that, and it's going to the point 1, which is 1.5 kilometers beyond the 1.5 million kilometers beyond the moon, essentially. So it's going all the way out there. If you're launching at a different time of the day and the month, you're launching to the wrong direction, right? You're not going to that point. You're going to another place in space, but really not going to that in particular. So you really need to be able to launch at a certain window, a certain set of dates, and also times. Like, for example, if this were to delay to tomorrow, the launch time shifts by about 2 minutes back to 1:09 a.m. Eastern. Hopefully, knock on wood, that doesn't happen, but just putting this example as well. In the case, for example, of when you want to land on the moon as well, because you're gonna have to also take that into account, right? You have to land on the moon. The landing site needs to be in sunlight, So you need to launch at a time where by the time you arrive at the moon, after all of the burns that they're going to be doing, all of the swing bys and everything, and flybys and all that, that needs to get in sunlight because these landers use solar power and everything. So of course, all of that takes into account. And at the end of the day, this launch window ends on January 20th. And if they were to miss that for whatever reason, they have the next opportunities beginning in mid-February. So we will have to wait about 3 weeks for that.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see that coming up on the Artemis 1 mission back then, because it had like a window, and then in the window also had out days. So that was very, very interesting to see during that time period, because you cannot always also target every single day in the window. Sometimes you just have to find the right spots. But it looks like, to be fair, 10 minutes from now, and I'm knocking wood here, that SpaceX is still on track to launch this on the first attempt and on time. We are not aware of any targeting issues at this point or any problems. They're working in the countdown. Sawyer, I think we have you here back again. What's the weather at the Cape? Do we know if there's any weather concerns for today's mission?
Yeah, as of right now, the main thing was just a concern of winds, which up to this point where I am currently, the winds are not that strong. They're actually relatively calm. It's a little cold, but not anything that's a concern for liftoff. So as of right now, everything is as it should be.
And we like that. 10 minutes from now, these double payloads, will start their journey, hopefully to the moon. So we like if we don't hear anything. The Falcon 9 countdown, and we are today able to listen to it, has the tendency of, if it's quiet, it's good. You don't want them to talk. That's, I think, the general assumption, right, Alex?
Yeah, and it's also mostly automated. So, usually if they have any concerns, they have like a secondary countdown where they talk about this and they meet together and everything. But otherwise, we would just not listen to many comms here right now. Yeah, and that's good. That's good when that happens.
Yep. You can see basically it's always good to have that progress bar. The tank of the first stage is almost fully frosty. Which is good because they are approaching the end of propellant loading as Falcon 9 is getting ready to pressure its tanks for flight because the Merlin engine, the 9 Merlin engine, have a certain and specific pressure and a certain and specific temperature they operate in, which is part of this auto sequence, which makes sure the rocket is in the perfect condition to launch in 8 minutes and 38 seconds from now. It's a very sophisticated and very conducted play that they are basically dancing down here in preparation for this launch. Always cool to see. Let me find some more questions here that we can ask until then. Sawyer, throwing this to you here, what are the different objectives of each lander once they have landed at a designated position? How would you differentiate their goals?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think the biggest difference is the fact that Firefly, their mission only lasts for about 14 days, so one lunar day. Once it hits night, they are going to basically let it go to sleep. They did say to me that they have the capability, if they were asked to be able to have it last through the night and keep doing science afterwards. But for this first one, the goal is just have it go 14 days, whereas HAKUTO-R's goal is to keep operating and keep doing science all the way throughout. So it's a quick barrage of lots of science versus kind of more drawn out.
There we go. It's the timeline being a bit of the differentiator. And of course, the probe collection on the HAKUTO-R we have had earlier. There's the Firefly Aerospace mission operation center that we can peek into here as they're getting ready to launch that. And of course, that is the Firefly that is also launching rockets. That's not the same thing as ispace where there's like a different company that has the same name. No, that's indeed the same Firefly.
Yeah.
Alex, what's Engine Chill that they just started?
Very similar to what we talked about before with the strong bag. The engines are going to have a lot of liquid oxygen going through that liquid oxygen pump. And so that is a very cold fluid. That means the engines need to be thermally conditioned for that very cold fluid. So what they do is they flow a little bit of that liquid oxygen through. They have like these sort of escape ports, vents, so to speak, on the engines that let them be able to vent the remaining gases out of that whole interaction.
Stage 1, fuel load complete.
That's essentially what's happening. And what you heard just there, that is the end of RP1 load on the first stage. So RP1 load, that kerosene has already been loaded on both stages. The first stage is already loaded with the RP1. The second stage got also that RP1 about T-minus 20 minutes. That's when that finished. And as we go through the countdown in these last 6 minutes, we're going to hear other callouts there. By the way, that's the moon. That's a live shot of the moon, if I'm not mistaken. And so we're going to hear the strong back retract will happen. We're going to have liquid oxygen load on the first stage and then the second stage ending as well. So, we're going to get through these last few minutes of the count, that last few propellant drops essentially being loaded onto the tanks.
There we go. Under 6 minutes from now, the strong bag will open in a bit, right? And release that rocket. And after that, it's just Falcon 9. You can see the clamps of that strong bag still being attached there, right below the fairing, that ring. That is the upper clamp of that strong bag, and that will open very soon. And then the strong bag will start to move back a bit to give the Falcon 9 more room during liftoff. How far does it retract and kick back?
Retract.
There we go. How far does it retract and kick back on this launch pad? Because I know there's launch pad differences.
Well, for both 39A and Pad 40 here at Florida, both are retracting about 1.8 degrees. And then at T0, they retract all the way out. I'm not exactly sure how far away out, though. I think it's maybe
strong
40
back lower
degrees
has started.
out. And that's the call out. So the first call out that we heard there in that process is they pressurize the tanks on the Falcon 9, so it's a bit more stronger. It's like a soda can kind of thing where it's pressurized and therefore it's a bit stronger, right? To winds and other loads while it is on the pad. And then the second one is the preparations to retract that strong back. So the first thing that you're gonna see is that top clamp is gonna open, and then the transport protector will retract away from the rocket. Next call out should be probably, I think, maybe the liquid oxygen load on the first stage, which should be wrapping up at T-minus 3 minutes in the count.
And then we are approaching the top point where the rocket, of course, takes over the countdown, which is the 1 minute mark. This is where Falcon 9 is in startup. So we are very close here. Again, so far everything looking good. There you can see that used fairing. That fairing has been to space before.
Yep. I believe some of the trackers are trying to figure out which flights for this one, because I believe SpaceX has not said yet the number of flights of those fairings. But yeah, they are flight proven, and they're going to be recovered by Bob out there in the Atlantic Ocean.
180 seconds to go here. Falcon 9 basically having everything it needs now to go to space. This is just the final moments here where the rocket prepares
Stage 1
for
launch
flight.
load complete.
The call out. Falcon 9 first stage is now fully loaded with propellants.
At this point, Sawyer, I wish you the best of fun. Enjoy this launch. And we are 150 seconds away. The final step that we will hear today is the sign-off of the launch director at about 45 seconds, where they will give go for launch, which is expected today.
Yeah, so far so good. We're going to see in about maybe 20 seconds from now
Stage 2 launch
that
load
return.
complete.
See, because now they have wrap-up liquid oxygen load on the second stage. So now what they're going to be doing is what they call the gas closeouts. That is when they release all of the pressure on the transport reactor. They do that van there where they essentially clear out the lines, make sure that there's nothing in them that is completely inert at the time of liftoff. Securing the lines essentially.
Yep, there it is. Venting out now the
gas launch closeouts has started.
remaining
There's the call-out.
gas in that T. That water tower leak is normal. Don't don't be scared about that. That's expected. That always happens on 39A.
That's their "I'm full" sensor.
Yep. It's a very visual indicator that the water tower is indeed full. 60
Next step,
seconds.
startup.
Startup call should come up.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There it is. Falcon 9
Yeah.
has taken over the launch countdown. Next thing is the launch director signing off the launch with a go for launch.
LD, go for launch.
There it is.
Adrian, are you go?
Looking good.
Because I'm go. Let's go to the moon.
Yep.
T-minus 30
It's
seconds.
time to go to the moon, indeed. "20 seconds from now, watch at the bottom of the rocket. There you will see the deluge spool up and the green flash of T-Tab, which will ignite the
T-minus
9
15.
Merlin engine.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff. Go Firefly, go ispace, go Falcon.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Falcon 9, power and telemetry are nominal. Engine chamber pressure is nominal.
Vehicle is supersonic. Max Q.
Under the mighty thrust of 9 Merlin engines, Falcon 9 gets ready to launch 2 payloads to the moon. Absolutely gorgeous. Wow. Is that ours?
It's gorgeous.
Impact chill.
And SpaceX just stole the stat that I was saving for after liftoff. This was the 100th launch by SpaceX from LC-39A. What an amazing launch.
Wonderful so far. Everything looking perfect. We hear the call outs. Everything looking nominal as Falcon 9 ignites the night sky. Just a few more seconds left in the flight of this booster. That is the preparation of Miko. We will now see the staged shutdown of the 9 Merlin engines. And then the return of that booster will begin. That's the Merlin vacuum engine, normal size because they need every single performance. That's main engine
Stage
cutoff.
separation confirmed.
And that's what we want to hear.
And back ignition.
There we go.
There we go.
Beautiful. Beautiful Merlin vacuum engine here, igniting and turning to orange. And that is the beginning of the first burn on the way to the moon. Of course, there's more than one burn today, right, Alex?
Yeah, this is the first one. There's going to be another one and then a third. So there's 3 burns for today. This one will push both landers into a low Earth orbit, and then a second one will push both to a high Earth orbit, and the third one will push the HAKUTO-R beyond Earth orbit.
That is so-called trans-lunar injection burn?
Technically a bit more energetic, that translunar injection, but yeah. And here coming up on the fairing SEP.
Yeah, they are there.
Fairing separation.
Wonderful.
Look at that.
And these are the legs of the HAKUTO-R, right?
No, that's Firefly.
Oh.
Firefly's on the top. Yep.
Oh yeah, because it's deployed first.
Exactly. So the Firefly Blue Ghost lander is on the top of the stack. There's like an encapsulated kind of deployment system, right? That is protecting the HAKUTO-R lander underneath. That's going to have to separate before. Yeah, it's sort of like that. Yeah. It transferred the loads of the Firefly lander down. It's nice.
Look at
I wonder if that's a moon jellyfish.
It looks a bit like a moon jellyfish, right? Which would be very fitting for tonight.
Indeed.
A jellyfish effect, of course, when an other light source illuminates the plume of a rocket. And if you look at that, it looks a bit illuminated to me, so I think very fitting for this launch, we are getting a bit of a moon jellyfish. You could not script this better. Wonderful. Of course, that booster is also working on its return, landing on. Just read the instructions, correct?
Yeah, so that should happen in about 4 minutes from now. So usually when there's a Starlink launch, what you'll see is that there's going to be the landing first and then the second stage shuts down. For this mission, it's the opposite. So we're going to see that second stage engine, shutting down first, and then the landing will happen. First, well before that, is that entry burn. So that entry burn should happen about a minute from now. The booster will go through the atmosphere. It'll reignite 3 of its engines in a 1-3-1 pattern, essentially igniting first a center engine, then 2 other engines. Those 3 engines will burn for about 20 seconds to slow down the booster as it comes through the atmosphere, protecting the engine section as well from the heat of the re-entry. And then the shutdown sequence will shut down first those 2 other engines, and then down to just 1 single engine that will also shut down at the end of the burn. And hopefully in about 2 minutes after that, we're going to have that landing on Just Read the Instructions. Watch out for the deluge, because that's the one with the deluge system on board.
Oh, true.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There's the entry burn startup.
FTS is saved.
There it is.
There we go.
That's 1 engine.
Exactly.
And now comes the flip to 3.
Yep.
People are sneaking in questions in the back channel here. Is this a coincidence that launch is happening so close to a full moon? Yeah, I wonder if the conditions that allow the window to be open are similar to conditions that are allowing a full moon. So maybe that is exactly the position the moon needs to be in. And we are about to
lose the second stage.
Yeah, buildings in the way.
Yeah, it's going over the horizon.
Say goodbye to the second stage. Sweet tracking here.
Hey, look at that. Behind the scenes.
Wonderful job here. And that second stage is still going. There's a lot of energy that you need to go to the moon.
Yep.
And how much longer is that second stage burn here?
Less than a minute from now, we should have that SECO one. And around the same time, the landing burn will start.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 transonic.
That's good. That means first stage right now through the speed of sound. One of the things that you might see, or might hear actually, is that the callouts will happen first, and then you'll see it on the video. That's because their telemetry goes first, and then the video comes with a little bit of a latency.
Should be very close to that landing burn.
SECO.
Stage 1 landing burn.
There we go.
There it is. That's shutdown of second stage, and there is the landing burn.
Nominal orbit
Looking
insertion.
stable so far. There's the drone ship.
I mean, hot.
Yep, that is.
Landing
See
leg
the
deployed.
deluge?
Stage 1 landing.
And touchdown with a record-breaking distance. B-1085 touches down and lands for the 5th time. Quite bullseye.
It's very close to the center, yeah.
Absolutely. That looked very bullseye. You can still see some glow of the second stage. And yeah, the first part of this mission is looking good so far. But of course, not done yet. Still much to do for Falcon 9 here. On the way to bring these payloads all the way to do the thing on the right there.
Oh yeah, that. The moon.
Moon.
Yeah, the moon, you know?
Moon.
Yeah, I think honestly with transit time and everything, Trevor in the back channel totally has a point. Like, this is probably related, the fact that this is a full moon versus that they are where they are going. This might be like the windows might just perfectly align that they have to launch during a full moon. Sawyer, what's your take on that?
I mean, it would make sense based off of their trajectory, but it just makes it so much more fitting when you go, okay, you know what? Let's launch on a full moon to the moon. And also, that was a spectacular launch. Beautifully loud, beautifully fantastic. And I was actually around a crowd for this one. It makes it a lot more fun when you hear all the cheers.
I can imagine that. Did you also see that was a moon jellyfish, right? It looked a bit like a moon jellyfish.
Seeing that thing expand was just absolutely stunning. Yeah, to get a little bit of that lunar jellyfish, see the expansion, got to see the landing burn as well. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, and that tracking from D, by the way, was absolutely insane. So we had probably some of the most amazing shots and tracking I've ever seen on this channel so far. This was really, really spectacular.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Looking great so far. And there you can see the dark side of Earth below the landers. Alex, when do we expect that second burn?
Yeah, so right now, both landers and the second stage are in a low Earth orbit. They are in a parking orbit there. Right now, we are waiting for T plus 58 minutes. So essentially, about 48 minutes from now, that'll be the next burn of the second stage. And that'll be a roughly 1 minute burn, which will put both landers into a high Earth orbit. This is sort of like a neck-shaped kind of orbit with the lowest point very close to the Earth and the furthest point about 300,000 kilometers above the Earth. After that, about 6 minutes later, after that burn ends, we're going to have the deployment of the Firefly Blue Ghost lander. Then the payload canister will deploy, the one that is sort of protecting the HAKUTO-R lander underneath. And then they're going to be performing a third burn of that MVAC engine about T plus 1 hour and 26 minutes. And that'll be a very short 1 second burn. That'll be enough to be able to put the HAKUTO-R all the way out to that Lagrange point 1 between the Earth and the Sun. So that's essentially the next few steps. Of course, that means there's a long coast phase until any of that happens. So, yeah.
So far, everything looks to be on plan. SpaceX has confirmed normal orbital insertion. Do we see there in the background, by the way, the planned departure of that payload to the moon? Because there's a very straight white line.
Yeah, in that map, the blue line is essentially what the orbit looks like if you just let it be. If you didn't do anything, that's what it will keep doing around the Earth. The gray line is the target trajectory. So the gray line, at some point later in the webcast, as they keep going around the Earth and in that coast phase, and we approach that relight of the second stage, we'll see that it starts curving up as it goes out to that high Earth orbit trajectory. And so yeah, that's gonna be more or less what we'll see later, and that's what they're targeting with that second stage burn.
we go. There is the moon again. It's basically as much of a full moon as you can get. Very fitting narrative so far here on this flight. Couldn't have picked it better. Of course, the transporter erector already going up again, as SpaceX is preparing for the next mission from 39A. They don't like to take breaks. And we are now in this coasting phase, which, as Alex mentions, the second stage engine start SES2 is at 58 minutes and 24 seconds, and that burn will last a minute.
Yeah.
And then at 1 hour and 5 minutes is the deployment of Blue Ghost.
And that is very important because right now, if for whatever reason those burns were not to work, these landers are not going to the moon, right? And so right now, it's true that, getting off the Earth and into low Earth orbit is sort of the hardest part, but the mission is not done. There's still a lot of things that the Falcon 9 needs to do, and of course, that's going to be later down the line, but there's a few more things to make this mission fully successful.
I didn't pay attention to it. Does this rocket feature the mission extension kit?
It does not. It's short enough that they don't need that. Yeah.
Okay, I just did. I thought maybe it was, but I didn't pay attention to it. So yeah, interesting. Looking good so far. As we are, of course, now in this stage where we can see the rocket going down, kind of coasting down the coast of South America there. On the right, that's Africa. On the left, that is South America. So it's kind of going down south. And then the ignition will be 50 minutes or so in. It's probably... I'm trying to guess here. It's probably somewhere going up again already. Like somewhere on the... somewhere in the range of Australia?
Yeah, very likely. Of course, we'll have to wait until that burn happens to be able to figure that out on the map. Because right now they're showing just where the second stage is right now, which is in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. But there you can see it's going quite fast. It's going to go around the Earth in essentially 90 minutes.
Yep, that's why I'm with 50 minutes or so. We are talking about somewhere in the range of New Zealand, Australia, for second stage ignition again. But rough guess here, rough guess. Transport director almost completely up again. And of course, that bit of fuel bleeding from that TE is also completely normal, correct, Alex?
Yeah, that is part of the pre-launch and post-launch vents that they put out. Just as we mentioned, within two minutes before the liftoff, they vent out all of the lines and everything. They keep that cleared. And after liftoff, they just don't even need that, right? So they keep just pumping that out and they clear those lines because then people need to approach the launch site. One of the things that we normally see is within a couple of hours, people go back to the pad and start refurbishing it and prepare it for the next launch. If I'm not mistaken, I think the next launch out of 39A, to the surprise of no one, is going to be a Starlink launch. So that's probably, I think it's coming up on the 21st, so about 6 days from now. So yeah, they need to prepare for that launch.
Let me thank some people here, because we are in the coasting right now, so this might be a good time to quickly thank some people. And there are replays coming up, I can already promise you that, and there's some special things we are cooking up here for this launch. But before that, let me thank some people.
Should we tease them?
We'll talk. I'm waiting if maybe D joins us.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later then.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We have time. Jane Stein becoming a new member here. Thank you so much for that. Then we have from Foka Mocha super chat here. Just wanted to put it out there. The ISTC crew here at Disney is all watching this, aka the closing cast. Enjoy the launch. I hope you got a great view. Carlos becoming a red team member. Kaido Carrot with a super chat. No message attached, just the generosity. Thank you so much. Calderon saying awesome track on stage 2. I agree. That was indeed a very awesome track. Echo Deal with a $10 super chat saying, I'm not singing. He's saying when the moon hits your plume and it makes the light bloom. I could have... I know which song this is referencing. I'm not singing this. Because
Copyright
it would
strike.
result... Yeah, copyright. It's just copyright reasons. JC Davis with a super chat saying, my first night lounge, that was gorgeous. I even saw the entry burn. I'll never forget this. And then we have Rex Baba becoming a Pet Rat member. Thank you so much. Wiki Disho. New name for this moon should be called Lunar. It's 2025. Let's give her an official name. Every other moon has a name. No, yeah, it would be cool to have a... I mean, it's also called Luna, so there we go. Anna Gallon with a super chat with no message attached. Thank you so much, Anna. And Apocalypse Cow with another 5 Red Team memberships gifted. Danger Moo coming through here. Thank you so much all for that very, very generous support. And I believe at this point we have D Wise back here on comms. D, do you mind sharing? That was an amazing track. What was that?
Thank you. Yes, I am back on comms. So that was a new acquisition of NSF that I've been able to try out for the first time tonight. So, I mean, that was my first time using it to track any launch, and I am extraordinarily pleased with how that went. I actually had 3 cameras on board a tracker controlling all of those, tracking the rocket at once, and then I had 1 behind-the-scenes camera as well, and I could not be more pleased with how this went, and it's great to see this mission on its way to the moon.
Absolutely, and we also got the very special treat of a moon jellyfish, it seems like. So everything going kind of perfect here. You could have not picked a better date, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really perfect day. Actually, to be totally honest, I don't even see the moon in the sky right now. It might be blocked by a building, but it was just such a clear night once again, and the assistance of this rig was greatly beneficial. So we look forward. I know I look forward, and others on the team certainly look forward to deploying this in the future to ensure we can get the best launch coverage possible.
So we can issue the feedback to DAS that it got the seal of approval.
Absolutely. This has earned my seal of approval tonight.
There we go. 21 minutes into the coasting. And we are still about 40 minutes away here from a bit less from the ignition of that second stage again. Again, there are replays and slow-mos coming. I believe you have you have some replays and some slow-mos recorded.
Yeah, so that stay tuned. But I've said this time it's slow-mo and fast-mo. So stay tuned for that.
Fast-mo?
Fast-mo.
I'm excited for that. I have no idea what to expect. So that's gonna be funky. We'll of course have that for you during this coast wave somewhere. And there's the VAB, which is very, very bright, illuminated at night. I want to point out here. That's quite an electrical bill.
What Dee was talking about, that new, those new toys, right? that we have. You may have seen some of those in action during today's broadcast. I was quite surprised. It was like, wow, is that our view, our tracking, right?
I want to point out that this new tool is also quite large. I thought the first time, like, it's quite large next to D and Max. And there is the view from Fleet Cam from liftoff. You can see that bright star that is suddenly rising. That is Falcon 9. Wonderful. In a weird way, I kind of like that. In a weird way, I like that. Like that bit of Is it like a lens flare? It has some. It makes it in a weird way special. I'm not sure if it's a lens flare. Looks a bit like how I see the world when I don't have glasses on.
Same.
And there it passes. You can see it's starting to turn a bit as it goes downrange. I always like this view because it's very much what you would see in real life, right? It's a very representative view of how you would experience a launch if you would see it with your normal eyeballs.
Yep.
There's the replay from one of the pad cameras. There's a T-tab in green, and that's 9 Merlin engines. And there goes Falcon 9. Yeah, I want to point out, by the way, I know this is a bit of a we talk about something that we do on stream, but I love 5-box. Like this view right, it's so cool. I love that. I love that we have that now. It's looking so cool. There's, by the way, some plumes in the way here right now. And there's the empty pad. I love it's like rocket, bright light, dust.
A lot of clouds, yeah, and then
empty pad. It's a wonderful transition.
And if I'm not mistaken, these feeds are also through the systems, the fiber feeds.
Yes.
As well.
That's another one. That's a very common angle that SpaceX uses all the time.
Yep.
I think it's the main Falcon Heavy demo angle, for example. And there it goes.
It's always so cool seeing this. That was the 100th launch out of 39A for any Falcon rocket, both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy.
Not that many rockets reached 100 flights at all. Falcon 9 just reached it from one more pad.
Yep. Now all 3 pads have had more than 100 launches.
I wonder if it's the first rocket ever that had 100 flights from 3 different pads.
I think probably the Soyuz has that.
Yeah, it's basically the question at this point is, did Soyuz do it before?
Yeah. And even like, which version of the Soyuz? Because there's been so many versions.
Because the only rocket at this point that is in numbers even close to Falcon or like comparable to Falcon is Soyuz. There it goes. Is that your track, D?
That looks kind of like it. Sorry, I was walking to one of my other cameras to take another card out of it just as you said that.
I'm sorry. But that looks like a track, certainly. Look at that.
That's really nice.
It's kind of cool at night how you don't track the rocket, right? Because the rocket is just not visible. It's just a plume. Wonderful. Wonderful shots. We should get the plume expansion in a bit. As the rocket, of course, has to basically has less atmosphere pressure around it, and that results in the plume expanding. And there you can see it's starting to expand now.
And also how the colors change as it goes into the higher atmosphere and it turns blue, which is quite
starts like
interesting.
orange and it turns blue, right? It's always a cool thing to see on Falcon 9. So yeah, there you can see it going up now. It's always looking like it's almost drifting at this point. And now the plume will turn to purple really fast. There. can see each of the individual engines there, resulting in like an orange streak.
Yep. It sort of looks like a stove at this point.
Oh yeah, it's true. Like where you put your kettle on.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't unsee that now. The Falcon stove. And yeah. There we can see again the payload deployed. That is the Firefly lander there. And in that capsule is the HAKUTO-R lander.
What's this
Yeah,
replay of?
I think this is part of the second stage flight.
Oh, I believe, yeah, that was the fairing SEP.
Yep.
From the technical feed, yeah.
And a bit of wiggling from the second stage there.
This would be a very unique view that we got here that was NASA helped work with NSF to get. So a huge shout out to the team at NASA's Kennedy Space Center to be able to bring us this. We had a far away unique vantage point. Or this one may not be, but we have a very similar vantage point coming up, I promise.
That's very cool.
I may or may not have been directly next to this camera, so that's probably why.
It looks indeed awesome. And we can also, just pointing out that on the left, we can now see the rocket now passing the southern part of Africa.
Yep, halfway through. Should have another 30 minutes or so until the next burn of the upper stage.
Yep, and there goes the rocket up. Yeah, could have not asked for. There was not a cloud basically in play. The full moon out there, like it doesn't get better at night. we couldn't have asked for anything better. That
really
is
great weather.
That's one of the Cape Camps, right?
Yeah, one of the ones at the press side, if I'm not mistaken, because I can see the clock.
Yeah.
The famous.
Oh yeah, the clock is like
clock.
on the bottom right?
Yep. Very much now obscured by this big white flash of light.
Yeah, it's like there's the rocket, and there is a big white fireball going up.
Turning
it's
9
bright.
into daylight.
Yeah, you can see the reflection there on the water. That was cool to see. Very cool indeed.
Yeah, that was a. There's some cool vantage points at KSC.
Do we know how often Falcon 9 now has launched payloads to the moon?
Been a bit of like about a handful. 4 to 5, I think. But there's been a few, yeah.
There's the T-tab ignition and liftoff. I always love that green flash. It just has character.
It just turns white.
Yes, it's like that camera is just white at this point. And when it turns less white again, it's smoke and then an empty pad. Where to look for rockets? It's always the good old game. Find where the launch pad is. Not sure yet. Oh, is it to the left? I'm not sure. But anyway, passing Africa now. There it is. Found it.
See, people are probably wondering, wow, they don't know what they're looking at? Yeah, we have so many cameras that sometimes it's like, okay, which one is this?
You have to remember, we have a lot of cameras and a lot of like potential launch pads where things can launch from. So you have to know not only which camera is that at night, where you don't see that much of a reference point, and also then which angle is the pad. Because there are some angles where you don't see the rocket until it is in the air.
Oh, look at that. Live views from the second stage.
Yep, now in daylight.
That reminds me, it's about to be sunrise here. And I bet it's already there, right?
I also see orange right of me. And just to point this out again, this is just the beginning of a potentially very busy day here at NSF. Because we have Starship and New Glenn in front of us today.
Yeah, I was going to say, what else is happening?
just Starship and New Glenn on the same day. It was coming. There's the parking lot. I think we heard a car on that parking lot, or like on some parking lot, not enjoying the launch a lot.
Yeah. Usually those cars are like, there's this pressure going by. My alarm is going off.
Yep, I don't like this pressure.
But yeah, and you can actually check out those streams that we're just talking about on our channel. They're already there, so you can, click the bell and everything so that you can watch them later.
Yep.
As they happen.
The stakeout for Starship, for example, will go live in less than 6 hours from now.
I really, I'm gonna be there at the start, by the way. So as you can imagine, I don't have a lot of time to be able to get a rest. But hey, gonna be a long day nonetheless.
I'm lucky. I'm only on there a few hours in.
Oh yeah, you're taking over after.
Yeah, I'm your replacement after a few hours.
We're just leaking the whole thing right now. Who's gonna?
Yeah, we were just leaking the schedule while the replay's happening.
Hey, this is the cool thing, right? If you stick around to these launches when it happens very late at night, and we have like a 50-minute coast phase, then you get us, talking gibberish.
Yeah, at some point, Alex and Adrian will just start yapping. So yeah, it's but on the contrary, I also then after that get to be on New Glenn. So
yeah, that's true.
You have some chance to sleep there.
We'll see. Because boy, New Glenn is also very exciting, right?
Yes, it is.
I've also seen some people confused because the Firefly lander is Blue Ghost, so it kind of it's Blue Origin, Blue Ghost. Different companies, different products.
Yep, same blue color, different blue things.
Yep.
This launch was gorgeous. There we go. And that's look. I love the fact that we have a before and after here right now on the screen.
Yeah, because you can see the center view at the top is the after, and then the before is on the big box.
And should be anything. It's always when the venting stops, right? Because they stop venting from the TE at some point, because at some point you don't want to emit any more gases from there.
Someone put in chat, they're saying, imagine, can we meet today? No, I'm working from when to when. Actually, the whole day.
Yeah, actually, the
that
answer
is a real conversation that we have had.
The answer is today. I'm working today.
Yeah.
As in the whole day.
No need to imagine, because that kind of conversation happens a lot of times.
Yep, it's a thing. With Starship, especially in play, which has, to what we can see, sorry, a bit of a bit of an iffy weather situation. We'll see how that develops, but there looks to be some more rain and some clouds in the area. So we'll talk about that.
Ironically, earlier in the week, the weather was a little bit better at Starbase, then it got worse. And today, it seems like it's quite, it's where did the rocket go kind of weather. Because you cannot even see it. And
yeah, I think the expected cloud ceiling for liftoff is 400 feet.
Which is the top of the rocket, essentially.
Yeah, that's Starship height.
Yeah, and on the other hand, there's the Blue Origin, not Blue Ghost. Blue Ghost is today's launch. Blue Origin's launch of the New Glenn, which had to be delayed last week, remember, because they had bad weather downrange. Then they had that scrub I think it was on Monday, was it? When, they had this issue with the auxiliary power unit and everything, and they had to scrub, but the weather was good. And now we're back to that attempt, hopefully in about 24 hours from now. And that'll be also good weather for launch, if I'm not mistaken, but the landing is also so-so. We'll see.
Yeah, it's moderate again.
Yeah, we'll definitely
right,
cover that.
Top right is the wonderful New Glenn rocket.
They changed that. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, it's really cool that we get the treat of now seeing two potential, but one of them, of course, is very much reusable, but the second one's also trying to become a very reusable rocket here at the Cape. Very, very cool thing, which we are getting in in this year, basically.
Yeah. There's a lot of, just in this span of 24 hours, there's a lot of exciting missions. Today, 2 lunar landers going to the moon. Of course, they're not going to get to the surface proper until a few weeks from now. In the case of the Blue Ghost lander from Firefly, that's in 45 days. March 2nd is the targeted landing time. For the iSpace's HAKUTO-R lander, that's in about 4 to 5 months from now. It's going to take a bit more time to get there. But it's an exciting launch, right? It's like, this is the first thing that they need to do in order to get to the moon. Like, if we don't get this, of course they don't land. And there's another burn coming up at T plus 58 minutes, and then another one as well to push the HAKUTO-R to the moon and everything. So if that doesn't work, then of course they cannot get to the moon. Then, as we mentioned, Starship with a new Block 2 ship with testing all of the catching systems on the ship without catching it, but testing them through re-entry, which is very important for later down the line, do the actual catch. The booster going back to the launch site, hopefully this time without that booster offshore divert, remember, on Flight 6. And, it's going to be very exciting nonetheless. And hopefully, the weather clears and everything. And then that New Glenn, it's super exciting to be covering all of this. I really have I complain about the sleep time, but I also cannot go to sleep. Like, I was trying to go to sleep before, and I was just not able, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, there's the lunar lander thing, there's the Starship, there's the Blue Origin New Glenn. Like, I was just thinking about all the stuff that we were going to be covering over the next day or so, and so I just couldn't sleep.
Yeah, It's one of these days as a space fan where you lay in bed, stare at your ceiling, and you're like, I have to get up again in 2 hours. I can't sleep now.
Exactly. I probably will have a hard time to go back to sleep again, in between this broadcast and the stakeout stream for Starship, and I'll probably maybe take a 1 hour nap or something. But it'll all be me. Like, I'll probably have 3 or 4 hours, and maybe only one of those I'm gonna be asleep. I will have a hard time being able to do so.
Yeah, my plan very much after this is to at least rest down. Like, maybe not sleep, but not being in front of my PC is my goal. There is another track here. I'm looking at the back channel. Certainly another track. Looking to be from I'm just saying it's a track. We know it's a track. It's a Falcon 9, it's a track. There you go. Looking amazing though. We are just 14 minutes away, by the way, from that second burn. And yes, we stay alive to that. Like, we want to... It's fairly important for this mission. And for a moon mission.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
And also, I mean, again, we're going through all of the replays here. I don't think we have repeated any single feed right now. And we still have the rapid mode, I guess, from D. the rapid mode, the slow mode, and everything. So we still have a lot of things to go through. And I'm sure there's... Yeah, we have not replayed any replays, Kevin is saying in the back channel.
Yep. And there will be some, what was the slow-mo and fast-mo?
Yeah, what they call the rapid mode. There's other things as well.
I'm not so sure what that is.
Being prepared. There's other things being prepared in the background. I think.
There's more things being prepared. Cough, cough.
You can see the stars going in the background. Look at that in the replay.
That's amazing.
See, we're not ignoring the replays. I'm actually looking at them, but we're talking about other things as well as we watch them.
Sometimes it feels like somebody trying to put, like, we're in a class and they try to make us pay attention to the divisions that are being calculated, and we're like, look at that window. Absolutely. Like, look at that streak there. Like, the length of the Falcon 9 plume sometimes is crazy. It's the semi-white track from D. Yeah, that plume is absolutely crazy. The earlier one. So that's another lip. That looks like another potential D tracking angle.
Kevin's saying they just keep coming, more replays.
Kevin, how many replay angles do we have for this one? It seems like there were a lot of cameras on this rocket.
I'm still trying to get you guys mine too.
Yeah, like there's more.
Ooh.
Kevin is like drowning in replays right now. 18. I've been informed there were 18 cameras.
This is Starship level kind of replay.
Yeah.
You know how on Starship flights we usually run through all of the replays at the end and we take 2 hours to go through all of them? That kind of feels like this.
Oh, you just reminded me that we might do that today again. Oh god,
yeah.
It's potentially happening. Oh boy.
Yep. Just hang on. Let me check my countdown. So we are 15 hours, 1 minute, and 13 seconds away from the opening of the window for Starship.
You say that, but I always have my more fancy trick, because I can make all producers at NSF annoyed at me at the same time. We go live with the stakeout in 5 hours and 2 minutes. Somebody in chat is asking, is it true that Captain Michael Rika has 6 arms? That's true.
Very true.
Yeah.
I've seen all of them.
12 screens or something like that, right?
Yeah, he has 1 arm for 2 screens, always.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Someone asking in chat, when is the next burn? That should be in about 10 minutes from now. So we are getting very, very close to that.
Like it's one of these machines where like these music machines that can do like every single sound, and where people like play the drums while they play a trumpet while they have like a mundharmonica and stuff like that. That's Kevin right now, I feel like. It's a thing. There we see the Firefly mission control. And we are about 10 minutes away from the second stage engine starting.
Yep. And about 6 minutes after that burn ends, that'll be when the Firefly Blue Ghost lander will separate from the Falcon 9 second stage. But that's not going to be the end of the mission. Remember, there's another lander underneath. So we'll see if we are able to cover all that, because of course, most of these feeds are from SpaceX, and so we don't know how long they're going to be covering this.
I can confirm, by the way, that part of the fog that could be in Starbase today apparently has arrived in Germany, because I feel like I'm in Silent Hill right now. I've looked out of my window and I cannot see the houses next to where I live because there's so much fog. There are the Firefly mission control. They are probably very happy once they see their lander being deployed. Okay, I feel like at this point, before we get to that burn, we are doing an interview that Sawyer got to record with Firefly's Kevin Scholler, who is the future systems architect. So let's listen to that.
The landing site has a lot of advantages in terms of the friendliness for hazards and terrain that we are going to be dealing with, and a lot of opportunity for a relatively unexplored area of the moon to give the payloads that we're taking there the best opportunity to get the science results that they're looking for regolith investigations. So with Blue Ghost, we're doing something a little bit novel compared to historical planetary landers, in that we're doing vision navigation. And vision navigation is leaning very heavily on the modern tools and computational resources that we have available that allows us to navigate based on the hazards that we see in the camera and incorporate that into our navigation algorithms for a safer and all-around more predictable and secure landing site.
How do you design a spacecraft to be able to maximize that short amount of time and get the most amount of science?
So that comes down mostly to our trajectory. So we take a little bit of a different approach with the trajectory than might be expected historically. So instead of going directly to the moon,
there we go. That was interesting, Sawyer. I feel like you're the best person to talk about this.
Yeah, sorry about the video there, but the audio that he was giving was fantastic information. I mean, again, it's the unique trajectory that they're taking to be able to maximize that lunar day. Basically, they're like, hey, this can launch whenever if they need to. It's just going to be less time or more time in Earth orbit to be able to get out there and get that full advantage of lunar day and get as much science possible in a short amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting always what goes into these trajectory plannings, which is always, I feel like, a bit of an underappreciated part of spaceflight, because like the layman's expectation is just launch to space, but there's so much more to this. So always interesting to see. Also interesting to see is the fact that we are just 6 minutes away from the second burn of the Falcon 9 upper stage here. Getting ready for that.
That should be about a minute long, that burn, putting both Blue Ghost and HAKUTO-R into a highly elliptical orbit around the Earth. And about 6 minutes after it ends, we're going to have that Blue Ghost deploying out of the top of the second stage.
Yep. It's a rapid succession of events now, which is always good to see. There you can see the current position of that second stage. The second stage also will start to vent a bit, right? Because it's starting to chill down a bit sometimes, Alex.
Yeah, so ahead of this burn, they'll need to chill down the MVAC engine, just like they do, before its first burn, or just like we see for the 9 engines on the first stage. So they need to condition that engine for that ignition. And then you can see one of the streak shots. If I'm not mistaken, that's from Max, it kind of looks like, because that's elevated.
Wonderful.
And if I'm not mistaken, Max went to the VAB.
From the VAB, you might say.
No, it's not the VAB. It's the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building from NASA.
Yeah, I call it like that. I learned that from XP, my favorite video game.
And this one is from Sawyer.
Yeah, again, it was just... Thank you. Just such a stunning night.
I always love when there are other lights and streak shots. In a way, it gives it more, like, I don't know. It makes it more alive, if you know what I mean. Oh, that's
absolutely.
That's apparently the fast mo from D. I know what that is. I didn't expect that.
Rapid mode.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive. All true of Falcon 9.
I feel remembered about certain SRB rockets.
You might see as well on that second stage feed that we're going to see some pulsing. That is from the settling thrusters, because right now it's in 0G, right? So the propellant is just bobbing around, floating around the tank. They need to settle that to the bottom. Yep, that's starting now.
That is engine chill on the Falcon 9 second stage. That is expected. And as long as there's not a huge amount of ice buildup suddenly, that is normal. So, and that burn is expected in 3 minutes from now.
Getting a little behind the scenes there, seeing Julia during her track as well.
Yeah. And you can see there the difference on the map as well of the two different trajectories.
Oh, true. Yeah, there you can see where it basically goes up again.
Yep.
That's basically like your navigational system showing you your exit. In 500 meters, please ignite your Falcon 9 second stage.
Exactly. Turn up.
Terrain.
No,
if it would say that right now, Falcon 9 would have flown differently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true. On the lower right, you can see the tracker going. This is a fixed shot.
It's kind of like a behind the scenes of seeing the team work.
Yeah, that's nice. Behind the scenes. It's both rocket, replay, and also behind the scenes. Speaking of behind the scenes, I think we're maybe putting out something for members about this, but...
Alex is linking stuff.
Hey, that's one of the member perks. I gotta sell it, right?
Yeah, lately Chris Bergen has started a campaign to make everybody think that I'm always the one leaking. I have seen polls and everything created about that, so I have to push back on that false accusation.
You'll be under 1 minute now. Of course, the times that SpaceX provides prior to launch are always subject to change, because little changes during the launch trajectory and things like that might alter the actual timing of the burns. But we're coming up on that relight of the second stage, hopefully in about a minute or so.
Yep. There it is. We are very, very close here, and we should have some coverage there because that is very close to Australia, so there should be some ground stations and everything. There's the Firefly mission control again.
It also comes down to whatever feeds we're getting from NASA and SpaceX. So
the burn should start right now.
MVAC startup.
Oh, there you go. That call out confirming that the MVAC engine has started up.
Yep, that burn going on for about a minute. Probably some a bit of a tension in this room right now as they watch this burn be conducted. Watching their baby geek getting accelerated. Halfway through that burn. There it is. That's the
there you go.
Merlin vacuum engine. And look at that speed in the bottom right.
Yeah, I mean the ticker.
35,000 kilometers an hour.
Or that. You can also do that.
36,000. 37,000. Yeah, sorry. It's like, that's all they got. Yeah, this one is going fast. 37,800 kilometers an hour.
Nominal orbit insertion.
There we go.
Confirm normal orbit insertion. And you can see now the planned trajectory going away from Earth. And next up is the deployment of Firefly's Blue Ghost, which is in about 6 months from now.
Yep, getting very close to that.
Let's hope we have some ground station coverage once that happens.
But yeah, right now it's still. Oh, sorry, because I just saw someone asking whether it's still in Earth orbit. It is, but the apogee, the highest point in that orbit, is way out there, like 300,000 kilometers above the Earth, and so that's where that Firefly Blue Ghost lander is being deployed into.
Yep, and once they show some shots again with telemetry, you will see the altitude is now going rapidly up.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's 228 kilometers. And you just look, the next time you pay attention to that, you will see it will start to go up fast. There, by the way, that was the next update. It's now 265. So yeah, it's quite going away from Earth, and you will also see that very, very soon on the video shots if we get more, because you will see quite a significant difference in the distance to Earth.
Yeah, and you can see there on the timeline already approaching that deploy moment for the Firefly Blue Ghost lander.
Yeah, look at that at the bottom. You can see how Falcon 9 is speeding.
Yep. Ironically, it's going down in speed because it's going up. Sort of like, this sort of coast phase, right? Just like you throw something into the air, and then as it comes back down, it starts slowing down. It reaches the top of the trajectory, and then it comes back down, and it starts accelerating. Same deal with the orbit. As you go up into the higher parts of the orbit, you slow down, and then you come back again.
Yep. Already at 350 now. Almost doubling since the second stage burn.
You may see some of those flakes of solid oxygen flying away from one of those ports on the engine. That's completely normal.
And just 4 minutes from now, coming up on payload deploy 1.
I'm seeing more shots on the back channel.
Yep, they are certainly being prepared.
Yeah.
Working on one myself here for you too.
Nice. And again, the HAKUTO-R is in that box below, right, Alex?
Come again?
The HAKUTO-R lander is a bit in that box below that lander, right?
Yeah, exactly. That box shell kind of thing transfers the loads from the Firefly lander on top down to the payload adapter, and also because the top of the HAKUTO-R lander doesn't really have a really nice connection point for the Firefly lander to be able to connect to. So they need a way to be able to connect both landers at the same time, and that's the way to do it, to be able to connect it. Like maybe in KSP, in Kerbal Space Program, maybe you can just hang it and have like the no clipping cheat code and everything. I don't know how to really express it, but those that have played the game might know what I'm referring to, that you could just put something hanging on the payload and not even be subjected to any surface or anything.
Yep. 2 minutes from now, you can see now really like how Falcon 9 goes away from Earth.
Yep. And you may also see that the second stage is like reorienting itself for that deployment.
Yep, and that's another shot from Max there in the bottom right of liftoff with the beautiful reflections in the ponds there. That is reflections always make it better. So go to X and look at that shot from Max there, if you wanna have a look at that even more. And that Falcon 9 second stage.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah,
that was the moon.
Better. Oh yeah, true.
Did you look at that? It was coming out from the limb of the Earth.
Moon,
go back.
Moon.
Go back to that other shot.
Unless they're deploying, then please keep it there, right?
Oh yeah, that.
That's also an amazing shot. I feel like they get some good solar power right now. And again, that's probably one of the main concerns for how they deploy right now. They are thinking about power and heat. That's the thing.
Firefly Blue separation confirmed.
That is the deploy of the Firefly Blue Ghost payload on its way to the moon. 1 out of 2.
Great.
Very, very nice.
Everyone
cheering in the control room. Nice. Very nice. Very, very nice. Okay. That's
what
one
we like
payload
to
on the
see.
way. Yeah.
FC com on ops.
And now,
First
just
command
one
at
more burn
3.1
to do.
is to enable carrier.
Com is go to enable carrier.
FC, please enable carrier.
Carrier enabled.
All comms be advised, SpaceX has delivered the separation state.
Flight FC, I confirm that I see carrier enabled.
Copy.
Comms confirms carrier is enabled.
Com steps 3.2, 3.3, please verify at your discretion.
Wilco, stand by.
Seems like there's a bit of communication going on there. Trying to not talk over it.
Yep. Meanwhile, the second stage is in a coast phase right now.
All com, a reminder, we expect a 4-minute blackout before we're in range of the Hawaii ground station. And then in approximately 50 minutes, a penumbra event that FIDO will update.
There you go. In 4 minutes, the top canister will separate from the second stage to reveal the HAKUTO-R lander, which is underneath. Look at that.
Apparently some blackout before they acquire ground station again.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, those callouts are for the Blue Ghost lander.
All comms be advised, we would drop off nominally.
Copy, Fido. PD or Fido, if you do have the correct separation time, please comment in the logbook.
Welcome.
All on Hawaii will come in view at 0722.
Falcon, a new BSP is available for the trajectory.
Copy, Fido. Please comment the expected penumbra time as well in the logbook.
Wilco, computing that now. This will stand by 10.
Standing by.
Yeah, the file is ready, and we are working on commenting in the logbook right now.
Okay. Still some communication going on there in the Firefly team, but nothing of the unusual. Just trying to confirm the exact deployment time. There's nothing that was said there is in any shape or form worrying. That's all just good news. And we are about a minute away from that payload canister deploying. 2 minutes actually. Go. Awaiting what kind of confirmation we get, because we might be in some sort of blackout period right now where they don't have views of the second stage.
Falcon, we expect rate damping in approximately 18.5 minutes.
And awaiting confirmation on that deploy very, very soon. And then that will basically free up the ispace resilience lander, which is right now still encapsulated. And once that encapsulation has been deployed, it is then also ready to be deployed after SES-3. Because once again, the HAKUTO-R lander is getting a bit of more energy.
To all consoles, the path to the BSP is available in logbook.
Go. So should get that payload canister deployment very soon here.
Upper MPC separation confirmed.
That it is. That was
That's the
probably
call-out.
the separation. Yep. The separation of that. Now the next thing that we are looking forward to is another burn in 15 minutes from now.
Yep. At 2 plus 1 hour and 26 minutes.
Falcon, be advised, SSC has AOS, standby.
Nice, and that's acquisition of signal for the Firefly lander.
Nice.
Falcon, please monitor your alarms.
flight, GNC and ops. I confirm we booted in safe flight and idle mode, which is nominal.
Copy. Please call out step numbers that you can verify in procedure 101.
And 12 minutes to go for that second burn. That second burn is, by the way, incredibly short. It's basically just
1
a
second.
puff. Yeah, it's a puff from the second stage. And after that puff will change the apogee quite dramatically, because at that point it will move on such limited amount of changes in the delta V. And after that, the ispace lander, the HAKUTO-R, will deploy as well in less than 20 minutes from now. At Firefly, it seems they're probably now a bit more relaxed that they have acquisition of signal. As their lander is now kinda on as everything is planned. From what we have heard, they were deployed exactly where they planned to be deployed. And it looks good.
There you can see the canister, the top has been deployed. Look at the altitude. It's already 3,000 kilometers up there.
And it's rising fast.
Yep.
That altitude is going up fast. There's not that many shots even anymore that show the Earth in the background, probably. And soon to be, we'll see that on that mission timeline there at the bottom, we will see the final milestones for today's mission appear.
Yeah, that relight should be in less than 11 minutes.
Nice. Looking forward to this. The speed, of course, as Alex said, it's going down, and that's expected, thanks to orbital dynamics. And we are now over 1 hour and 15 minutes away from liftoff here.
Funny thing
and more
is,
cheering.
Yeah, and funny thing is, this is just the 1% of the way to the moon, right? Because the way to the moon is like 400,000. So we're just less than 4,000 right now. So less than 1% of the way to the moon. But for HAKUTO-R, which is the one that's going to be deploying soon, actually going to go 1.5 million kilometers out there. So that's going to be quite a distance. That's why they're doing this third burn. Should give it enough oomph. It's only 1 second, but that's really all it needs with a high thrust MVAC engine and the already high orbit around the Earth that it has. That's all that is needed for the HAKUTO-R lander to be able to get into that trajectory to the Lagrange point 1.
Looking still as expected here. And we are 9 minutes away from that second stage. Ignition should appear in the timeline very, very soon.
Looking at the back channel, we still have more replays being prepared.
The amount of replays this launch has produced.
And that's nothing compared to Starship later today.
Well,
Or tomorrow,
Depends on the
depending on,
conditions.
or that too. Yeah.
It could be 20 replay angles of fog.
What is this, Vandenberg?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they're stealing their trademark apparently. Insert Jack saying, "Oh, there's not that much talk at Vandenberg."
That's exactly how Jack talks.
Yeah, exactly. I did my best Jack imitation. This is the moment where I hope he's asleep.
I really like when they launch these missions like way out there because you can see the Earth getting smaller and smaller on the camera. You can see there on the top right of the right-hand camera. Meanwhile, on the left, we're still looking at the Firefly control.
They have a nice LED bar there in blue.
And now a third box with the moon? Wow, Kevin.
Kevin is once again like he wants to bring in more boxes. Like he probably right now resists the urge to bring in a fourth box. And there is SES3 on the timeline approaching.
Very short. You can see there the distance between SES3 and Seco 3 is like, 1 pixel.
Yep, it's like there are 2 events in there. We promise. You will see that burn is really more like a puff. You will see a
Blinking
puff
miss.
ignition of the engine. I believe at this point we will have to say goodbye to one of our commentators for today, as Sawyer is signing off here. Is that correct, Sawyer?
That is correct. Yes, it's been a lovely evening. I'm so happy to be back at the Cape after everything, but my body does need to lay back down again. I was glad I was able to bring you pictures and views, and I'm sure at some point we'll get the replay from my vantage point. And again, a shout out to NASA for the very unique vantage point that we were allowed for this launch, and to Firefly for giving us experts to be able to talk to so we could bring you all the information.
There we go. Thank you so much for being on today, Sawyer. And glad to have you back at the Cape.
Glad to be back.
And with that, we are...
Oh,
nice. We love test pictures.
It's NASA cutting the feet.
5 minutes from now, we should get the SES3. And meanwhile, look at that moon.
Moon, moon, moon.
Bringing back to the good old chant.
5 minutes to that relight of the second stage, by the way. Getting very close.
It is approaching at the timeline at the bottom. You can underline it with like menacing music as it happens. Can see the wonderful reflection on that Falcon 9 second stage there, as that is also the start of some engine chilling there, I think. Some light puffers. And there comes the almost at Seco free again. Don't blink. If you blink, it's over.
Yeah, and we should also see that comeback of the chill down. Remember, or the relight.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to burn again. And in fact, it should be beginning in just any second from now. Look at that.
There it is.
There we go.
Your timing is impeccable.
It's almost like I have a lower latency feed on another tab.
Oh,
but
that's oh, that made it so much more lame.
Yeah, it's cheating. I know.
I
have my tricks to get things with lower latency. But yeah, that's the engine chill already starting on the MVAC engine. In about 3 minutes, we'll see that very quick 1 second burn of the MVAC engine to put the HAKUTO-R lander into that trajectory to the Earth-Sun Lagrange point 1.
Absolutely. Let me quickly thank some more people here before we arrive at that burn. Starting with Anna Gallen with a super chat saying, such a beautiful view from Miami with my NSF guys in the background. Thank you guys for all that you do. Thanks for watching us, and I hope you enjoyed the launch from Miami. Big Dog with a super chat saying, how long until Resilience reaches and lands on the moon? Also, since this is SpaceX, will there be a video feed during moon orbit landing, etc.? So, going forward, the coverage is no longer in SpaceX's hand. This is now Firefly and ispace operating their vehicles, so whatever they decide to cover is their thing to do, right?
Yep, this is very much, SpaceX is just giving them the transportation to those two different trajectories, but even Falcon 9 is not really getting them to the moon. Then each lander needs to use their own onboard propulsion to get around the moon and then land on the moon. And so all of that will be covered by each of the companies. The Firefly Blue Ghost lander, which separated about 20 minutes ago, that is going to be landing in 45 days on March 2nd. As for the HAKUTO-R lander, it's a bit more because it needs to go through these sort of flybys and everything. So it's going to take 4 to 5 months, and it'll depend a bit on the timeline that the company itself wants to go through. Because once it enters Earth, orbit around the moon as well, they have to time it with a landing location and everything. So yeah, but 4 to 5 months is usually the timeline that what ispace is giving away for this mission.
Yep. And yes, that is a very expected amount of ice that you can see right now on the Falcon 9 second stage.
Yep.
So just this is frozen oxygen, right?
Yeah, the event. So as I was saying, they flow a little bit of liquid oxygen through the pump, right? And that liquid oxygen heats up because you're cooling down something. So on the end, the oxygen also heats up, and so it turns into a vapor. They need to release that. That's what those vents are for. That's not a leak. That's actually a vent to release that buildup of oxygen. So when it releases the oxygen, it then turns into ice.
I have to quickly interrupt you to start the no blinking challenge.
Oh yeah, because it's coming up now.
Don't blink. Really, don't blink now. You will miss it. Don't blink.
Watch out for the ice, because I always
no sneezing. Yep. No sneezing. No blinking. Get ready. Watch that second stage. And ignition. Stop.
And done.
That's it. People in chat being like, now that you said it, I have blinked. And
yeah,
that looked like a good burn. Yeah, I did the Alex thing on Alex, but I think Alex is very much okay with me interrupting him then. And there's deployment. There comes it on the timeline. You can see it.
Yeah, it was a nominal orbit insertion.
A
the
nominal
SpaceX,
burn of that MVAC engine.
Yeah, the call out on the SpaceX feed, they said the orbit burn, and they corrected. It was like third burn, not the orbit.
Yeah. That was probably a moment where somebody at ispace went like, what?
Yeah, right? They're used to the third burn being the deorbit burn, right? Because on Starlink missions, they have the first burn to low Earth orbit, then a synchronization burn, and then the third burn is after payload deployment to deorbit the second stage. Today's mission will not see any deorbit, but boy, that man probably is used to too many Starlinks that he said deorbit burn. That was fun. But yeah.
Imagine really, you're the person at iSpace listening to that comms and be like, what do you mean deorbit burn? We are still on this thing.
Yeah. the iSpace be like, wait, what? We're deorbiting now?
Yeah, apparently we're deorbiting now.
But yeah.
No, of course that rocket is not deorbited. This is the
actually the opposite right now.
Yeah, it's very much orbited.
Exactly. It pushed that HAKUTO-R lander even beyond, like a little bit more further out than the Blue Ghost lander. It's gonna go again like 1.5 million kilometers from Earth. So that's a long way out there to go.
And to be fair, they wouldn't need that much longer of a burn to deorbit this rocket. Because if they go all the way up to apogee,
exactly,
go up to apogee and retrograde fire your engine, you will not need a long burn to deorbit this rocket.
Yeah,
because the perigee of this rocket is like low.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, it's very close to the Earth, essentially in low Earth orbit, right? Unfortunately, the Falcon 9 second stage is not capable of that. Maybe in the future Starship will. But
when you're saying, so help me, I will turn this rocket around.
And there will be no moon for anybody.
No moon. Nobody gets any moon.
Yeah, that's a Simpsons reference.
Jack would be so proud if you would be awake. There's a replay of the landing again.
Ooh,
just
look at that.
read the instructions. There was some wobbliness in that.
Speed also kind of had a bit of an oopsies.
We thank some more people here.
Someone
RC
noted in the
Horseman.
chat we're back to $5.
Yep.
They're knowing the tricks. Continue, sorry.
All good. RC Horseman gifting 20 Red Team memberships again. Thank you so much. Lalo Ruvalcaba with Super Chat saying, thank you for flying SpaceX. Please make sure you have all your belongings before exiting. Yes, you don't get to go back to the second stage. Turtle Sanctuary with the gifting of the Red Team membership. Thank you so much for that. And Turtle Sanctuary also saying, I'm sorry, but is this a live feed from how far away? We are so spoiled. Thanks, NSF. Thanks, SpaceX. Yeah, absolutely. This is a live feed provided through fiber to us, and we can make sure you get the best possible coverage here and see everything you need to see. So there we go. Thanks for all of this support. It really helps out, making sure we are able to do marathon days like today, because once again, to remind you, we are about 4.5 hours away from starting our stakeout stream for Starship.
Just to clarify, the fiber is not coming from the rocket, it's coming from NASA.
Yeah, there's not like a fiber cable.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the Sawyer track, by the way. This is Sawyer's track. As the rocket goes up, so many tracking shots today. We have so much tracking.
Coming up in that deployment in about a minute or so.
Nice.
And if that deploys, then it'll be a successful mission for today.
On the left side, watch that. Well, you also enjoy the replay on the right side. And should come up any second now. Waiting for that picture of the HAKUTO-R lander flying away. There it is again.
8,000 kilometers.
Yep. The small things you can see there are all like little particles of ice and stuff. And deployment coming up.
ispace
There
resilient.
it is.
Separation confirmed.
And
Separation confirmed indeed. Successful deployment of the HAKUTO-R lander. With that, both landers that are on the way to the moon are now successfully deployed, and Falcon 9 did its job successfully.
There we go.
Absolutely wonderful mission.
Just to make note of this was the 8th launch of SpaceX in 2025. It's January 15th. Yeah, they're on track for 200 launches right now. And that's not even counting Starship, because we also have another Starship as well.
And we have another Starship today.
Yep.
It's a day here at NSF with us also starting our marathon coverage for Starship today, and also with us in less than 24 hours being live from the Cape again for Blue Origin's second real attempt of the New Glenn rocket to launch it. So it is quite a day here that we have in front of us. And I, again, quickly mentioning them, if you don't follow us on socials, you should probably do that today, because it's a very good day to make sure that you're up to date on everything. That goes for X, that goes for Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. If you have anything there, you will just be able to see every single update you need to see.
I hear we have a final replay, I think. So
yeah, there's a slow-mo replay coming up, apparently.
Ooh. Oh, hey,
And
look at that.
I hear the music that signals to me that I can start to thank people. Starting with Alex. Alex, I think this was over 2.5 hours of us talking with each other. This was basically a Starship stint. So thanks for being with me here.
Yeah, and then in a few hours from now, another 3 hours of commentary on that stakeout stream, and also for the launch stream of Starship. So, very exciting, and hopefully we have a very good time, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. Earlier today, we also had Sawyer on, who was also on commentary for today and delivered a track and everything. Thank you so much, Sawyer. Speaking of amazing tracks that were delivered today, we had Dee, we had Julia, and we had Max in the field. All three doing amazing field work today, and of course also debuting that new amazing tracker that we saw. We also had behind the scenes Carson, we had Jay, we had Kevin involved in this. I know there was a lot going into this. There was Gage involved in some tracking here. So thanks everybody that was involved in today's coverage. We have some amazing slow-mo here for you to enjoy, and we will see you all in less than 4 hours for Starship. Oh yeah, I'm also Adrian Bile. Sorry, forgot that. Bye!
You forgot your Adrian?
I forgot my Adrian. I said thanks to Kevin. But he didn't show the card yet, I get it.
and here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
RS-68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roger, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FT off. Bring in FT off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Decollage! Look at this! Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.